What's up, world? This is Cam coming at you with the Movement and Shepherds of Men. Very special episode we have for you today. Sitting here, as always, with my brothers from other mothers, JP.
What's up, guys?
And Wilson.
What's going on?
And a super special guest in the studio today, Mr. Rick Gehrke.
Thanks, Cam.
Yep, glad to have you here, man. It's awesome. We're going to get into why you're here in just a minute. We got also, if you see, those of you watching on YouTube, which if you're not, you can go subscribe, which we've talked about a lot in the last few episodes. Go subscribe, youtube.com. You've heard of it. It's been around for a little while. They do videos there. And you can subscribe. You can hit the little alarm so you know when a new episode comes out and all those great things. But if you're on video, then you see that we got some other guests in the house, some of our friends from Walnut Street Publishing, and I'm going to tell you all about that jazz too here in a minute. So before we get rolling, I would like to encourage everyone to go to @Shepherds of Men on Instagram and or Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter. I don't know what it's called on there. It's @Shepherds of something. Just look for it. You'll find it. You're smart people. And now we're on Parler, actually, which is a little redundant, but figured we'd try it out. Seems kind of cool. Charlie Kirk's on there. I like him. He tweets or parlors a lot, echoes a lot. I don't know what it's called. I got to
Parlays.
Parlays.
Parlay.
Look at you.
Why not?
That's what it's called, actually. That's actually what it is. Yeah, I like it. So that's how you find us. Obviously, you can see all the different episodes that are coming out. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor FM, all those different places. You can find all our jazz, the last 60-something episodes, plus this one. And we encourage you to go subscribe to those places too. And the more that you do that, the more that it helps get the message out, the more that your friends and family and all those that need to hear what we're talking about can hear it. And we appreciate you sharing this. That is kind of, as Andy Frisella would say, that is the only fee that we ask. The only fee we charge is for go tell somebody else about this if it's adding value to you. And give a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can go on there and give us a review. I think maybe even on Spotify. And we appreciate that. We get a lot of great feedback just kind of directly from some of our listeners. We'd love to see it on those bigger platforms too. While we're talking about that, before we get into too much, I mentioned Mr. Rick Gehrke, and I'm still pronouncing it correctly, right?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Excellent. If I do that throughout the whole episode, I will be impressed with myself. We're going to get into your story, but you have recently written a book that was published by Walnut Street Publishing, and I've read it. It's awesome. Really enjoy it. We had a chance to meet through some mutual friends, some of the owners of Walnut Street, some friends of yours, and fellow military vets and things like that. So just a lot of great credibility there, but super cool book. I'm going to go ahead and put this. Can they see this?
Yep.
Just put it right there. That's prettier.
No, you're covering up the moneymaker. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
50 Ways to Love Your Liver.
The book's in front.
Cool title, too. Yeah. Do you still have a mic over there? I thought we removed that.
Remember the subtitle.
Deleted.
You tell me the subtitle again.
The subtitle of the book is A Hard Drinker's Reflections on Moderation.
A Hard Drinker's Reflection on Moderation. So this book can be found at walnutstreetpublishing.com. They are out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Would definitely encourage you to go get it. I don't know what it costs, but it's worth it.
It's worth every penny.
It's worth every penny. I'm telling you, it was worth every penny because I got this one for free. No, I didn't. I bought this book. I didn't even get a free book out of this deal. What's up with that?
We will.
We'll fix that.
Okay,
Yeah, we will. Me and Chris will.
But I paid for the autograph and the nice little note. So
Authenticity.
The authenticity. I think it was probably the first one printed too, if I remember correctly.
That's first print round.
First print, yeah. So very cool. And so this episode is really going to be geared towards everybody having a chance to hear a little more about your story, Rick.
Okay.
Kind of the reason you wrote the book and what it's about. And I'll tell you, I read a lot, and it was, and I've read some of the most popular books you've ever heard of when it comes to personal development, and I've read some that are brand new like yours, and honestly, the principles and the things that are in there are right on par and super helpful. I've got a lot of highlights, things that I will definitely go back to. So I appreciate you writing it. This organization that we founded as Shepherds of Men was the original purpose was to build men, to make masculinity cool again, was to, as we say a lot, if we get the men right, we get the world right.
Well, you and I talked about that the night we met, and I just, I really like your mission. I started listening to your podcasts. Mm-hmm. And as you and I discussed, we were kind of talking about what society's done with the image of the dad. Back when I was your age, but when I was in the 70s growing up, we had, Andy Griffith. We had My Three Sons. We had, these strong father figures. And now we've got Al Bundy, and Homer Simpson.
And that's even a thing in the past.
And commercials. Yeah, well, yeah. But, these commercials that are making dads look like asshole idiots, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the things that I liked about your podcast, and the mission of Shepherds of Men is that we need to recalibrate ourselves and turn that around. And that's going to, bring up the general spirit and help our society recover.
100%. And it's a long-term play. We talked about this earlier. We had a great Zoom meeting with a business coach that we'll be working with in the future. And we were talking about that. It's something that we believe is, we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and we have every intention to keep doing it as long as necessary. But it's going to be a generational thing, But the more people that are of like mind that can put out good content like this book, it'll help. It'll help my kids will read this book at some point.
That's what the point was, just to try to take all these things I learned. I'm going to be 58 next month, and I'm just starting to come to the realization that I need to get my shit together, stop spending all my time entertaining myself, and try to pass on some of the things that I've learned to as many people as I can. And one thing I've learned a lot about in my very checkered and twisting career is drinking too much and working on, just understanding what the consequences of that are and watching other people. And so I put together this list of ideas, starting off with a little bit about my own history.
So tell us that before, because I'm probably going to ask you some questions or where you're heading right now. But give us a little bit, unless, JP, you want to say hello? Wilson, you want to say hello? Hi.
Hi. I always like to say hi, everybody. Hey, how you doing?
I think it's really cool that you made the comment that you decided that it was time to give back at some point. Now, whether it's 56 years old or whatever it may be, because we actually talked about this in a previous episode, because I think a lot of people are intimidated to ask for guidance or mentorship or something, especially if it's somebody that's gotten to a different height or accomplished more in life. And one of the things that we want to make sure, because men, one of the problems that men have in general is the fact that they won't ask for help. Right. Because it's sissy-like, right? Like, you shouldn't have to ask for help. You should be able to be self-sustaining. You should be good and stuff. But what they don't realize is there are a lot of guys that have got upwards in age or whatever it may be that would love nothing more than to sit down with you and say, listen, dude, don't do this.
To have a chance, because you got to catch them at the right time.
Absolutely.
They've got to realize that there's a need for something. They got to be comfortable to approach you. And like a lot of these things, they're not going to talk about it with anybody. They probably wouldn't talk about it with their own dad. But you might just have a chance conversation. If you can get people to open up, they'll tell you all kinds of things. One of the things, and a lot of the people that are reading this for the first time that kind of know me and kind of don't, they may get a little uncomfortable with stuff that I tell about myself. But that's why I'll put that stuff in there, to help people understand that no matter how bad a situation they've been in, no matter how fucking stupid mistakes that they've made in their life, they're not the only ones. They're not alone. Other people can stand to hear that stuff, and they're not going to, there's no lightning bolts are going to fall out of the sky. Their career's not going to end because they admitted that they had normal human problems.
Well, and the truth is, and we talked about this before we started recording, the truth is, like, it can be surprising. Most people would be surprised at how many people have all kinds of other shit going on.
Yep.
When at some point you got to realize, like, okay, everybody has other stuff that they're like, I don't know if I want everybody to know about that, or whatever. And that hung me up for a long time, honestly, in my own past. And now I don't let it anymore, because now I understand that actually there's power in that story. That's not a hindrance. That's actually a benefit.
There is. And when once you get past a certain point where you don't have to worry about what everybody thinks about you. And I got past that point. It's like, hey, this happened. These are my choices. These were the consequences. This is the stuff I did right. This is the stuff I fucked up. And here's what happened because of that. I'm open with my kids. They know my history. They know my background. My wife and I talk with them about everything. Here's what happened. Here's how we worked it out. And show them not just the stuff that they can see, because what they see, if they don't know the details, they're going to fill them in with assumptions and imagination and stuff like that. So if we're not straight up and honest with our kids, they're not going to get the full lesson if they get it at all.
100%. See, I like that. I can respect that big time, because, we before we started, it was like, just be real, just be you. And I love that you're bringing that raw ethnicity to this. It's pretty cool.
Well, we've created a fake environment, especially when you talk about social media, with the way that it impacts society today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, girls are comparing themselves to girls that have spent 6 hours getting, you know, all dressed up and all kinds of stuff, and then these younger girls are looking at it going, "I'm not as pretty as she is,"
Right.
or whatever it is. So they create this fake environment that you see that's so accessible nowadays. We've even talked about the church. I mean, in the past, you know, the church creates this aura of Christians, or, you know, this Southern Baptist kind of thing, like
Perfection.
you can't do anything wrong and stuff. But that's not the case. You
It's
know,
not.
Christians are just as bad as anybody else. They're just convicted more. A true Christian, you know. So there's a lot of really good stuff in what you just said right there, because that's important that people understand the reality of things in the actual story. And like Cameron said, that impact of the story is, I mean, it's priceless, you know, because a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, well, he's freaking perfect. You have to be perfect to become successful in today." But that's not the case.
No, people haven't gotten it in their heads that Facebook is a highlight reel.
Exactly right.
When you're looking at the distillation, it's like looking at a finished album or a finished movie and not realizing the thousands or millions of hours and dollars and script writing that has gone into raising this jewel in a setting. And it's like all those people, they don't have anything that you don't.
Right.
No.
Right.
Most of that shit's rented anyways, just for the
Right.
picture.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like I'm going to
Yeah.
lease this Ferrari for 30 minutes so I can take a picture in front of it.
Yep, it's an illusion.
Exactly right. Well, and you're a musician too. And it was
Yeah.
interesting what you said about like people not understanding how much time went into that studio session to record the album to make it sound like it sounded. And then they go to a concert and wonder why like it doesn't sound the same.
It is. I mean, right now,
when you do sound really good and live, that's why it's more appreciated. It's like, holy
yeah,
crap,
it
these
takes
guys
more.
are actually
E-
talented.
Even then, that's the distillation of decades of practice.
Right.
We're working on a video right now. There's an Iraq combat vet, Army guy, and he wrote a rap song about his experiences in combat and coming back to the States. And he wrote this rap song. It's great. It's like, you know, really just gritty. He did all the music himself. A videographer friend of mine that lives across the street named Will Taylor grabbed it up, and he's helping us put together a video. The song's 3 minutes long. We've spent 2 solid days of shooting footage, and we're not done yet. So he's going to distill that. So by the time it's done, it's going to be perfect. But, you know, they don't see you sweating and clipping and all this other kind of stuff. You know about that because you're sitting behind.
He doesn't have to
the
do
board
much. I mean, we pretty much nailed it first try.
So yeah,
We're always this pretty. I mean, this is how it works.
We just come in here perfect, right?
There's the illusion of social media, and people feel inadequate because they're not all of this and all of that and all the other thing. And we need to. Social media is a double-edged sword. Sometimes I love it, and sometimes I just hate it.
It's a good tool.
Yeah.
And it can be a good tool.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest problems with today's microwave mentality with stuff is because you look at that and it creates that microwave mentality like, oh, I have to be perfect on my first run because the first run in their mind is the first release, right? They see that first release, first run is perfect and stuff. And I think that's why people today have a really hard time being consistent and dedicated to things that take like these small, like every day waking up doing the ugly shit day in and day out and day in and day out. And then, you know, it took 10 years to become an overnight success, right? Everybody sees the success. Everybody sees, you know, whatever it may be, whether you're a musician or whatever, or even like overcoming some kind of addiction or something like that. You're done with it and stuff. And they're like, man, look at you. You're stronger than I am. Well, you didn't see the fight that I went through to get to where I'm at.
I didn't see the blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
For sure.
Just the success.
Speaking of the blood, sweat, and tears, as much detail as you want to go into, but give us just a little, for those that haven't read the book, because you tell your story pretty in depth on the front end, which I appreciated a lot because it means a lot more what you're saying in the 50 chapters about your recommendations once you know where you're coming from.
That's kind of the payoff. The setup in the book is to try to give people a little bit of look into my life, how I was raised, so they could understand, one, you know, that there's somebody that's willing to come out in print in public and say all this stuff, but all this stuff, you know, people go around living their lives because something bad happened. You know, maybe they were sexually abused, or they stole something, or they got kicked out of the Air Force for smoking pot, and that they're unclean and unworthy, and they can't talk about it or share about it for shame and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, fuck that, man. You know, this is part of my life.
Right.
This is what, you know, if somebody sees me doing something good, like I'm doing some volunteer work for my church, or I'm helping out veterans and stuff, that's because of all that other shit that happened in the past. So look, you can get past that. You can forgive yourself. You can let yourself off the hook now. So Background-wise, just a kind of a little snapshot. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
Ohio.
In
Are you a Browns fan?
You
should be now. They're actually good.
I like sports.
Okay.
But, I mean, I played high school for a couple seasons, football, and ran track. But I don't really care who's playing or who wins. I just like to watch the plays, to have a good time, drink a beer. But I don't care who
Cleveland just started playing sports this year.
I think it was this year. Now, LeBron may disagree, but who the hell listens to LeBron?
Nobody.
Nobody
listens.
Well, in high school, I played for the Ontario Warriors, which was in Ontario, Ohio. So born in Cleveland, lived there for a couple of years, moved to Pennsylvania, lived there for a couple of years, moved over to northern Indiana, lived there for a few years, wound up back in Ohio, in Mansfield. And when I was 17, I didn't want to go to college, sick of school, had no prospects, no light on the horizon at all. And a recruiter came to my high school. Happened to be an Army recruiter, so I came home. I was all psyched up. I was going to go be the best I could be. My dad didn't serve. He was tied up with kids in college during Vietnam, but two of his brothers had been Army Air Corps in the Second World War. One of them was a bombardier on B-17s in Europe, and the other flew Mustangs in the Pacific. So anyway, he's like, Rick, I think that's a good idea. You want to join the military, but why don't you talk to an Air Force recruiter first?
I was told the same thing.
Went to an Air Force recruiter and talked to him for a while, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to be a jet engine mechanic. So went to processing, and they asked, did you ever have any foreign language training? And I'd had a couple of semesters of Spanish, and they're like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. They start rubbing their hands together. We wanted you to take this test. It's called the Defense Language Aptitude Battery, where they throw a fake language at you to see how fast you can learn a language. It's a, totally bullshit fake language. Scored well on it, and they're like, hey, we got this other job for you. It's classified, but it's really cool. We think you like it. And I said, can I fly? And they said, yeah, you can get a flying job. So I took it.
Nice.
Went through basic training, and at one point somebody came in and said, what language do you want to learn? Write your first three choices down on a piece of paper and give it back. So I put down Arabic, Russian, and Spanish. And it was just it was a gift from the universe, a pure stroke of luck. I got Arabic because that was the language to have back in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So basic training, a year of basic Arabic school in Monterey, California, back to Texas for airborne school, then survival school, and then off to my first duty assignment, the only one I ever had deployed, which was Athens, Greece.
Oh,
nice.
And then I flew recon missions in the Middle East, North Africa, and Southwest Asia until I got out in 90.
What'd you fly?
RC-135s.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't fly them. They wouldn't let me near a stick or a weapon or anything. I flew in the back, and I had headphones.
Oh, really?
That was my weapon.
That's awesome. So,
thank you for your service, by the way.
absolutely.
It was an
100%.
honor and a privilege to be able to do it. I'm glad I did.
So, okay, so military, and then take us through that progression of moving through your military career and then into your post-military lifestyle and everything else.
So the job suited me perfectly, and it was the only thing I took seriously. Because, I was 17 when I went in. Started drinking a lot. I'd started drinking in high school, like a lot. And then once I got in the military, if I went to class, my Arabic class or whatever, and did my job, nobody cared what else you did. If you didn't kill somebody. So we drank and drank and drank and drank and drank. Got through it, did great in language school, did great in airborne school. And then I went to Greece, and again, more parties. So I accelerated quickly, learned things. I got to be a lead operator and a flight examiner pretty early. Probably one of the youngest flight examiners our squadron had, and did really well at it. But if I wasn't flying, it was partying. I got into music too, so I played my guitar and got into scuba diving and things like that. But there was always the booze, and for whatever reason, I came out of childhood with ADHD at a young age, a lot of stress. And I dealt with depression by self-medicating with booze. Mm-hmm. It's not all I did. I wasn't like, Andy Capp walking around going hick and having little bubbles come up out of my mouth.
the young ones won't know what that is.
But it was the only way. It was the only way I could sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was great. There was some things about the missions that really got to me because we weren't most of the time, our troops weren't even involved. When I got over there and first started flying, Lebanon was halfway through a 15-year civil war. And, the more I learned, the more angry I got. We were having, people getting blown up, people getting shot, airplanes getting hijacked. and all that kind of stuff. And the more I learned about it, the more angry I got. My mood just kept getting darker and darker, nightmares. And I drank a lot to get to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I also started smoking hash, which that didn't go so well toward the end. I got away with it for a long time, but it finally caught up with me. So I got out in February of 90 and came back to the States and had to go home and face my parents.
This is back in Ohio?
They had moved here. They had moved while I was
Tennessee
away.
then. Okay.
Yeah, they. My dad worked for Tappan and GE, so they moved down here. They were in Ringgold. Dad worked in Lafayette at a
Georgia,
GE
actually.
factory. Yeah,
that's where my wife is from, Ringgold.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So let's.
You didn't
see.
say it right though. You got to say Lafayette.
Lafayette, but at least it's not Lafayette.
Well, that's the proper way. I'm from South Mississippi, so Lafayette is actually how I know it. But then I moved to this area and it's Lafayette.
Lafayette. I hear that. I hear Lafayette.
Lafayette. Yeah.
Somewhere down there by Lake Winnie.
Yeah, exactly.
beyond.
Everybody knows the big amusement park, Lake Winnie. It's like
It's
Six
so
Flags
huge.
of
Yeah.
Ringgold. Yeah.
So got out, worked a retail job for a while, got real sick of that. I was on the road all the time, making crap money. So I decided to go to college and study environmental science. And so I had to quit working, went broke real fast trying to go to school.
That happens
and
in
not
college.
work.
Yeah.
Big time. So I started looking around for a job waiting tables, found a restaurant called the Santa Fe Steakhouse on South Broad. It's gone. It's one of those like Mexican restaurants that keeps turning over.
Yep.
They'll open for a year.
They
then
just
go out
change
of
the name.
business and
Yeah.
quit. Exactly.
Yep.
So that's where I met Jen. Jen is my wife now of going on 28 years.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah, it's been
That's a
really
big deal.
cool. Got 2 kids. So anyway, over the years, I just started paying attention to things, dealing with relationship issues and raising kids. I gradually started kind of climbing up out of this stuff. Started seeing counselors, pastors, gotten into outdoor adventure sports, and kind of started building a better lifestyle. Things got better. And then finally, this. I just realized, hey, I'm pretty happy now.
So, with you, the connection with Walnut Street Publishing is through Steve's organization, Summit for Soldiers, right?
Right.
Is that right?
So what happened was, first I got connected with Freedom Sings USA.
Right. Okay.
Because they were a Vietnam combat vet. This is one of these guys that was right down in the shit, Roger Rahor. I met him at Unity, where I was doing volunteer audio video work, and he knew I was a songwriter and a musician and everything, and he said, hey, we got this group, that helps out veterans through songwriting and music therapy and getting their stories out of them and publishing them out of Nashville on albums. You should come and check it out. So this was kind of funny. I thought, I'll go over here and help these guys out, right? But, they pulled me in like a long-lost brother, just welcomed me into the fold. And I got a massive amount of healing from that group.
Nice.
They, they didn't care about anything that I had done wrong, ever. They were just like, we're glad to have you here. Let me help start writing songs with them.
Is this the same ones that are doing the rap song? Was it same organization?
Same
Okay,
group.
Yeah.
They were called something else back then. They used to be called another name, but now it's Freedom Sings USA. Freedom Sings USA, the treasurer at the time, a guy named Al Jarvis, he was an Air Force linguist in Vietnam, Chinese linguist. And he knew that I was into outdoor adventure sports like mountain biking and rock climbing and stuff. He told me about Steve and Summit for Soldiers.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt. Are you doing the run? And are you doing the Rabid?
I have
You're doing it?
somewhat committed. I tried to do it last
Whoa,
year.
whoa. Hold on. That's real watered down. We don't somewhat commit to anything.
I committed.
I'm going to cut that off. All due respect.
All right, let me rephrase that.
Either I did or I did not commit.
I committed.
Okay.
And then
So I'll see you in January.
I got 11 miles into it last time
Yeah?
and misread a trail marker.
See, I'm all told it's marked so well. This is what Phil's telling me the other night.
So, I'm going to do it again this coming year.
Okay,
but I'm
sweet.
going to stay on the trail.
I'm going to be running with you.
Okay, I'm going to be walking.
Well-
I've got an artificial knee on this side and no cartilage left in this one. So
You get a pass then.
I'm going to be doing a really fast hike.
I did my first trail run. So any of our listeners heard over the last number of months I've been getting into running, but this would be my first trail run. And my actual first trail run, like not organized, was Monday night. And my neighbor, good friends, become like a brother, Phil. He's big into all this stuff.
It's different from track running.
It is. It's a lot different. And we did 5 miles at Stringer's Ridge Monday night. 35 degrees, headlamps, and the whole
Yeah.
deal. It was amazing. I loved it. It was great. It's the first time I've ever been there on that trail.
Being
by the way.
outside is
Crazy.
night mountain biking when it's cold.
Yeah, he said he
headlamps and
mountain bikes that
everything, it's a lot
trail
of
a lot
fun.
too. Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the rabbit. Now 15 is going to be a lot different than 5.
Yeah.
So I think Sunday we're running again to get to like 10 and see how I feel on that. But I mean, we're going to do it either way. So because we committed.
That's what I did last time. I committed. I went out there. I got my food. I got my water and everything. I'm chugging along. I was going to be done like 3 hours later than everyone else, but I did plan to finish it until I got off on my navs.
And then somebody was looking for you.
No, I called in. I had my GPS.
Oh, okay.
So I called Steve and said, because he likes to know where everybody is. I'm like, dude, I'm going to walk to a road and head back to the parking lot.
Which road? A road.
A road. Well, it's the one that runs along the top of the
closest
reservoir
one.
there.
Yeah,
the closest one. Just keep going uphill. You'll hit one.
Cool. So, all right. Sorry to interrupt, but we were just talking about rabid raccoon.
Well,
today,
thanks for calling me on the wussy commitment statement.
You're welcome.
Yep.
You're welcome. That's why we're here.
Yes.
I forgot where we were in the story, but
so what was the transition for you? Like what made you? Because like we talked about previously, I think one of the biggest problems with men today is this fake reality that men have to be individuals and they have to be self-sustaining and stuff like that. What made you want to reach out for that help or accept the help from the outside?
Well, it's because I had people calling me in.
Okay.
I had other people inviting me. People can kind of see when you're in need. And when you get to a point in your own development where you're ready to accept it, then all you got to do is start paying attention, and it's going to be there wherever it comes from. Might come from God, might come from your church, it might come from doing stuff out in nature, it might come from your, the people that are in a group you're in, like Freedom Sings or Summit for Soldiers. And if you just start paying attention, it's there.
See, and I think that's really what I wanted to get at is the fact that as a man, it's your responsibility. I mean, if you have a problem, to reach out for help. But at the same time, if you are a man of character and integrity or whatever it may be, you might need to reach a hand out and help somebody that needs help.
Yeah, and you got to get past the discomfort of that.
Right.
You got to get past rejection because some people are just going to say, "Fuck you, old man. I don't want to hear what your shit."
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you another side of that is even this is a personal struggle I've had in the past, and something I still work through is working through the potentially egotistical side of that. Like you're trying to help somebody, and it's like, well, then you're assuming that you know something more than somebody else knows, but you do. If you've been on this earth for more years and you've had more experiences, then there's certainly valuable things you can pass along. When we started this project, that was one of the things that was big. Is like I keep telling myself, like, don't hold back, because there are people that are the 25-year version of you that need to hear what the older than that version of you has to say.
But listen to them too, because I learn stuff 100%. From people younger than me all the time. So
100%.
it's not lecturing them; it's engaging them in a useful conversation that will, let them question me and gives me the chance to ask them questions. Because there's a book out by Neil Donald Walsh called "Conversations with God," and one of the best lines in it, he said that the treasure is not in the answer, it's in the question. Because a lot of times, people, they're not going to believe something if you tell them, but if you ask them, they come up with the answers.
Yeah. We just talked about that on a previous episode. Either the last one or the one before.
Listen to both of them.
Almost died. Yeah, and go to YouTube. Hit the little alarm button. We'll give you some time to do that.
Yeah. All right, welcome back.
Now that you've done that.
Now that you've gone to YouTube and subscribed. If you can't tell, we're really promoting building up the YouTube channel because I think it's important, man, to be able to put some visual with the audio. I think it's big time.
You know what I love more than anything, though, is I love experience. I love people that have life has just kicked your ass at some point or another, because that's some of the greatest conversations with people that I've ever. So my dad is a former Army vet. He was over there in Desert Storm. A lot of stuff happened over there, really messed with his psyche. He saw a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have seen. Any human should have to. Human should have seen. A lot of chemical warfare crap that happened. A lot of stuff that was just unfortunate for him to see that kind of messed with him. But it's I love nothing more than to see somebody go through the shit and come out on the other side and still be able to make decisions to make their life better.
Yep.
Because that experience is invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things, anytime I get a chance to talk to people that have been to war or whatever, and, you know, what they call the greatest generation stuff, because a lot of people will never see that kind of experience. You know, and you've probably seen stuff that most people will never see in their lives. You know, so for me, I never, like you said, you can learn from everybody. I don't care what level of success you're at. You should go into a situation with, what can I learn from this individual? So I think that was really cool to hear that, and I love hearing people's experiences, because it's invaluable.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So don't discount that old, you know, bum laying on a park bench, or, you know, this old lady or whatever, just based on their appearances. Listen to them.
So one of the questions I wanted to get to is why write a book, which you hit on a little bit early on. But you were talking about how you got to know Walnut Street, I believe. How you got to know Steve was through...
got to know Steve through Freedom Sings.
Freedom Sings, and then Summit for Soldiers.
Pointed me to Summit for Soldiers. So I, you know, started getting to be friends with them. And just like Freedom Sings, they like just scooped me up and welcomed me in. And,
yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about those folks over there.
Gotten to be really tight friends over a short period of time. And then we were just having a discussion one day, and somehow the subject of the book came up. And I said, yeah, I'm writing a book and looking for, you know, to get this thing published. And they're, oh, hey, we have a publishing company.
How about that?
Isn't that cool how that works?
So we got together at where we were, the meeting place or somewhere, and just sat down.
Oh, man, y'all went
talked
high
about
class
it.
first meeting, huh? Look at you.
Moving up in the world.
Wow.
There you go.
It's over there by St. John's, kind of connected to St. John. I don't remember if I showed you.
Is that the one you showed me? You were like the white tablecloth kind of stuff?
Meeting places like their bar area, or I don't know. They're like sister restaurants.
Coffee shop. But that's what's been happening the last few years, is I keep having all these opportunities just fall into my lap.
Yeah.
And every one of them, it's like, you know, another step up, another cool bunch of people I meet that want to talk and get to know me and work together on something. So it's
it certainly happened tonight.
Yeah.
It did happen tonight. Yeah.
It's amazing when preparation meets opportunity, how things happen.
Yeah, that's no joke. And the more of that kind of stuff that you accept, the more of it you're going to get. It's like if the universe keeps throwing opportunities at you and you ignore them, they stop coming.
Right.
But when you start, you know, taking advantage of them and appreciate them, you get more.
I wonder if they stop coming if you just stop recognizing them. You know? Like maybe your brain.
Maybe you could stop recognizing them, but I think they are really going to stop coming because they're generated by your activities.
You're not attracting to. Yeah, you're not attracting.
I think skepticism is something that's we're going to talk about that later.
Next,
yeah, and that's one of the big driving factors of why people get so stagnant in their life.
If skepticism is a useful thing, I don't know if y'all read much Carl Sagan.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, there's a really good book to recommend, and that is A Candle in the Dark.
Okay. Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan. And it's just a brilliant book, but he's like what I would call a beneficial skeptic. He's not just, I don't believe that, that's bullshit. He's more like,
smart skeptic.
Let's tear it down and figure out whether it's bullshit or not logically.
It's more of an academic scale. Yeah. No,
we're going to talk about that next episode because of some recent events.
Yep.
And we've all kind of laughed at skepticism on the very surface level side of things that holds people back. That type of skepticism.
Well, it's the people that you could almost anticipate. Like, I'm going to put this out there, and this person's going to go, no, there was a thing that happened 60 years ago that was similar. That was not good. Basically, the people that want to disprove everything. Like, it doesn't matter. They want to disprove everything. There's no faith in anything.
Right.
What was the name of that book again? Can you?
A
Candle in the Dark.
A Candle in the Dark.
Not a candle in the wind.
It's something else. A candle in the dark. But there's something that is in there. You want me to look it up on my phone? I could probably.
Who was the
Our
author?
producer could probably look it up real quick and tell us.
Carl Sagan.
Sagan. Sagan.
I thought you had two screens over there for a reason. No?
You're fired.
Well, my thing.
But if you Google Sagan,
I can find it.
A Candle in the Dark.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool.
One thing I'd like for you to kind of elaborate on is like, so you got to this point in your life that you were accepted and it started breaking your walls down, started giving you, you know, the opportunities that you're seeing now. How did that translate to you? Like, how did you feel coming into it and then starting to prepare, but like, man, okay, I actually get to be transparent with my life. And like, what was that process in your mind?
Well, it felt great because after, you know, because of the way I got out of the military, I kind of hid I wasn't proud of my military service because I thought I'd, fucked everything up, which I did. I knew the rules. That's what the rules were. And, somebody turned me in. I admitted to it. And, that was it. So that was on me. That was my fault. But the problem was I threw the baby out with the bathwater. And, I didn't take pride in what I'd done, which I did a lot of good shit. I was good at my job, took it very seriously. And when I started being around Freedom Sings, all these people are like, you are not alone and it's okay. And you're still you. And I started being able to realize that I could be proud of who I was and, realize that I did some good stuff too.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just a big turning point, getting to know them and then having all these opportunities to help other people, I guess kind of helped me feel like I was worth something again.
That's awesome.
I think our producer has.
I found it on my second screen.
Hey, look at there.
It is a book by Carl Sagan. It's called The Demon Haunted World.
Yeah.
The Demon Haunted World.
Close to Candle in the Dark.
It says science as a candle in the dark.
Yeah, so Demon Haunted World, science as a candle in the dark.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
But that's healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
No, sure. There is a certain level of skepticism that you shouldn't just walk around aimlessly and accept everything.
A lot of that bad skepticism is driven by negativity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going to reject this. Then here's a quick answer why I'm rejecting it. Let's move on. I don't want to think about it anymore.
It's very similar to calculated risk is what I would look at that as. You still take risk, but they're calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking to them about this book idea that you had. You'd already been thinking about that before, and then they said, "Hey, we have."
Started. I was into like my second or third draft on the manuscript.
Okay.
And then at that point, once we decided we were going to go ahead together, then Aaron took over and started doing the final polishing edits on it.
Okay.
And then they went out, Emily did the cover design.
Okay. I didn't know that part.
Well,
Look at
that's
there.
awesome.
And they took care of all the stuff that I didn't want to do.
Sure.
Right.
Going out and getting the ISBN and the printing and the copyright paperwork and everything taken care of.
All that sounds super sexy, though. Are you sure you don't want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because I want to start on my next book.
Right.
I actually started on my next book. So that's the part of it that I enjoy.
Yep.
And then they're ready to pick that up when I get it to the point where.
So why
they do
this?
their
I mean,
part.
obviously, if like I said, I read the book. For those that read it, they'll see more in detail your background, the drinking and that kind of stuff, and then understanding that you talk about in there about not necessarily quitting. That might be the right things for some people.
For some people. Some of us don't want to quit. Some of us want to moderate.
Moderate, right. And that's what I was going to get at. So, like, why this particular topic? And on that, in that same vein, what I got from the book was how to approach drinking a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it seemed there was 50 ways to approach a lot of other things in life a certain way.
I mean, I focused on drinking because that's where it started, and I've kind of got some expertise there.
Yeah, you and me both.
So, did I already tell you where the title came from, how that started?
I know it because I read it, but
okay, so
for our listeners,
here's the quick version. When this started, I was doing volunteer audio video work at my church called Unity of Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd run cameras and sound and all that kind of stuff. And the ringleader, I don't really want to call him a pastor because that doesn't fit him. He grew up like, charismatic, one of these like really far out religions. So he's a holy heretic on a mission to help people recover the true nature of what the spiritual practice is and throw out all the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2019, for some reason, he started this theme. He said, okay, I've got a theme this year. It's called, Do You Have the Guts to Change? And it was more about, like loving our bodies, taking better care of ourselves. And for some reason, he started with the liver, right? So he comes in there one day in January, and Sunday he said, all right, he tells us about the theme, and he says, all right, I want you all to think between now and next week, if you can come up with, some kind of thoughts about loving your livers. I didn't think that much of it. I was in a band at the time, usually in a band, but our bass player, Eli, for some reason, he wanted us to do a hard rock cover of Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover.
Yeah.
We tried it. I tried playing around with some riffs, trying to figure out a way to do it, and it never took off, but I got the song stuck in my head really bad. So the next Sunday, we go in there, and John starts off with this, okay, so have you all thought of any ways to, take better care of your livers? And I said, yeah, I heard there must be 50 ways to love your liver. So it got a really good laugh, and John said, man, you need to write a book. I
How about that?
There's the universe again, right?
There's the universe again.
Yeah, those moments.
So that same night, I was reading a book. So I had this book on writing nonfiction books in this hand and a big glass of wine in this hand. You know, it was like a Reese's peanut butter cup commercial, right? Between the wine and this book about writing nonfiction books. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start, writing down different ways on drinking moderately on my iPhone notepad. If I can come up with 50, I'll write the book. So nice. I just started writing them down, and pretty soon, they just kept coming.
Yeah.
I ended up with like 55. I had to trim them down and combine some of them. So then I just started writing it down. As I got into writing, at first, that's all it was going to be. Kind of like John Winneker's Zen to Go. Just, he wrote this collection of other people's quotes, and it turned into a bestseller. That part was relatively easy, but when I really got into the thick of it was when I started writing the introduction. Because I started writing just a real brief history of my life and how the book got started. I sent it out for editing, and the editor's like, no, you can't just drop a hint here. You need to explain this. People are going to want to know more. So more of my own story kept coming out, how I grew up, things that happened to my parents, especially my dad, that made them the way they were, how that made me the way I was, my entry into the military and all the things that happened. So it turned into, it wasn't meant to be like a confession or some huge expose. I just wanted to give people some context as they read it so they understand the material and be able to relate to it, right?
I know when I was reading it, I was like, are we still in the intro? Like, this is, like, when did we get to the 50 ways? But not in a negative sense. It was just like, I'm really glad that it got this in depth. I didn't expect it. I
wanted to pull people into it and help them understand, it doesn't matter what kind of fucked up things you've been through, what kind of stupid shit you did. You still deserve to be happy and healthy and take better care of yourself. Now, when I got into the actual 50 ways, to your point earlier, it's not just about drinking. It's about taking better care of yourself. Now, I know a lot of people, there's one of the support groups I'm subscribed to on YouTube, on Facebook, it's called Moderation Management, which is supposed to be about moderate drinking, but the vast majority of people are just trying to quit for a day or 2 days or 3 days or a month or something like that. And so many of them are in this cycle where they'll abstain, binge, remorse, guilt, misery, abstain, binge, right? So this is to help people like that get out of that cycle and understand, first, why am I doing this to myself? Because if you don't get at the roots of this kind of stuff, any kind of efforts you make at moderation are failed because you're going on sheer willpower, and when that gives out, you got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, I would say that crosses lines for a lot of things. Oh, yeah. Whether it's people weight gain, people binge eat, people there's a
Gambling,
multitude of things.
Sexual addiction,
right?
Yep.
It has a lot to do with consistency of effort in there, and it's I like how you said it's a matter of I don't need to quit. I just need to know I'm in charge.
Exactly. It's about being in control and understanding your own mind and where the triggers come from.
Right.
Because they're not going to go away until you get a grip on that stuff.
Right.
So I'm curious from the author, like, what are some of your? I'm going to read through some of the titles of the 50 ways, the chapters.
All right.
Just because I want people to, just in the titles, you'll understand how this can be beneficial. Even if you're listening right now, you're like, I don't even drink. Why should I read this book? There's a lot of reasons you should read it.
Well, and notice that the 50 ways are divided into 3 categories. Mm-hmm. The first ones they're not really about drinking. They're about living better, improving our minds. Meditation, yoga, eating better, exercise, sleep more, all that kind of stuff that is going to make your life better, whether you drink or not. Because that's where I think people need to focus first. If they really want to get a handle on their drinking, they have to improve their life. I know that's the way it was for me. The better my life gets, the less I want to drink or do anything else that I know isn't good for me, even if it's being an adrenaline junkie.
Well, I think a lot of people use, and I can say this for myself, in the past, for sure, I've used alcohol as a way to fill a void.
Yep.
And that's because my life I wasn't playing at the level that I should have been playing at.
Exactly. You weren't connected. And it's the lack of connection is one of the things that feeds addiction. So improving those connections, feeling alone,
emotionally disconnected, for
emotionally disconnected, and that's when I was younger. I would drink myself to crazy excesses because I was lonely and depressed and angry and dealing with it the wrong way.
So what keep going what you were talking about the three.
So then the
categories.
second part is more about taking care of your body. About eating, eat before you drink for one thing. Don't drink on an empty stomach. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
Hydrate better. Eat a liver-friendly diet, which is good for you anyway. So that's the parts 1 and 2. And then the third one is basically tactics. Have a written plan before you go out and party. Make sure that you're well rested. Don't drink and drive.
That's a good tactic.
Small glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Just little simple shit like that. Instead of setting a bottle of whiskey down next to your easy chair and your Xbox, get little bitty shot glasses. Leave the bottle in the kitchen. That way, if you want another drink, you got to get your ass out of your chair, decide if you really want to do that, and get another one. Just real simple stuff. And, if people just find a couple of those that work for them, it's going to be worth the price of the book.
We talked about being an architect of your environment. And that's a really good example of being an architect of your environment. Like, you build the environment that you want around you, but you have to be intentional about it, right?
Exactly. Do it for a reason.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's really cool that you say that, because that's important. That's important in a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to read more, then you need to have your book sitting right next to your bed where you go sit down, or put your book on top of your remote of your TV in your bedroom. So you have to pick that book up and intentionally move it out of the way if you want to grab that remote.
Yeah, and surround yourself with things that are better for you than whatever that bad behavior is.
For sure.
And more entertaining. I'm reading all these books because every time I get together with Emily's husband, Scott, he loads me up with a bunch of reading assignments.
Nice.
Right? So, I'm not even going to bother playing Fallout because I've got this awesome book to read.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all, just these little tactics of finding better things to do with your time, things that feed your mind instead of trying to deaden it with too much, whether it's alcohol, it might be Coke.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's the other thing I loved about, two things, how practical, and we talked about this texting back and forth over the last week or so, is like just so many just simple, practical things that can be applied. And I think that's important these days, that you can read a book that can be meaty, but it also can be just very simple and very, like, I can do this today,
And I tried to keep that bite-sized.
Yep. And I appreciate that, because especially for people from Mississippi, if the chapters are only like a page to 2 pages, then we feel like we accomplished a lot because we read like 10 chapters.
Well, and there you can read like two chapters out of that book and have enough to think about for the next couple of days, something you might want to try.
Yep.
And then you might try it and go, it doesn't really work. You flip on and find another one.
Yep. 100%. So I'm going to read some of these titles because, and I think even you guys that haven't read this yet will appreciate this, and it'll sound, because what I want people, I don't know why, but I just think it's big to make sure everybody knows it's not just about drinking. And the other thing too is nobody's saying not to. Right. Like, nobody's sitting here telling you shouldn't drink. Like, you should just know, as we say a lot recently, you do you.
Yep.
Yeah, change your relationship with it so it's not hurting you and other people around you, but you don't have to cut yourself off.
Or do if you want to. What you say at the end. Just quit if you want to.
Yeah, if that's what works for you, then by all means
just do it. So here's some of the titles, and just think about where all this. Forgive yourself. Grow your mind. Turn excuses into power.
That's an important one.
100%. Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
That's got a story in it that I'll tell you. Another book to read that I highly recommend. It's called No Hands, No Excuses.
Yeah, I've heard of that one actually. Meditate, which we've talked about. Meditate, prayer, whatever your thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Change your friendships. We just talked about that in the last episode.
Yep.
Lower your guard. Be more vulnerable, essentially.
Yep.
Be happy anyway.
Yeah, we just had an episode on
decide
that.
to
be happy anyway is a saying my wife wrote down on a sticky note and stuck it up on the fridge. And you got to unpack that a little bit, which I do in the book.
Yeah, we're not going to unpack it here. You got to buy the book.
You got to buy the book.
So
you just highlight reel.
Yeah, this is a highlight reel. It's like Instagram.
Yeah.
Love your body, exercise, keep yourself hydrated. I mean, that's good just in general. Track your spending, read a book, maybe this one.
Especially this one.
Yeah. Change hangouts. The last one's just quit. Anything that's holding you back, just quit. If it really is. It's
so sad though, because like those things right there, a lot of people will look at it and go, well, duh. But they're the same people that don't do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They know it. They just don't do it.
Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, it takes action, and some of them take willpower. So it's like people have to be, it's like we were talking about when you have a discussion with somebody that's younger, you might want to teach them something. But if people aren't ready, this isn't going to help them.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it might help them get ready just by reading the introduction.
Well, we can always plant a seed, for sure. you know. Is there anything else you guys want to add? I feel like or you, Rick, after these guys, or any other questions you want to ask Rick while we've got him here?
This was good stuff. I like learning more about you, man. This is, I thank you for being vulnerable. That's one thing as a man that everybody should learn to do. Be real to yourself and be you, you know, and you came in here being you, and it's cool. I like it. And thank you for just stepping out and being able to impact other people that needs it. I know of a few people that would actually benefit from this book if they were ready.
If they're ready.
But yeah, I think that's a huge thing, because I was raised in a Baptist church, so that's their like mantra, you know, no drinking, no alcohol and stuff like that. And I know several of them that did have issues with that, and they would struggle. And the biggest thing was that you have to forgive yourself, and they would beat themselves up so much. And I love that you started off with that, because if you can't forgive yourself, the healing process can't continue. It can't happen.
You can't forgive others either, because that's a skill that you need to learn to be happy.
And that's huge. So, and then just all the other, you know, highlights there. It was
and I literally only read about a fourth of them. Probably,
yeah,
so
I saw that.
Just some good stuff there.
No, I'm looking forward to buying the book, to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to reading the book, because what I love what you did here is you didn't create a stigma about drinking. Because somebody tells me not to drink, my first reaction is, I'm going to get a drink. I'm going to get a drink. But when somebody talks to me about, man, go get a drink, but be grown.
Don't be a dumbass.
Make good decisions, man. Right. Go have you a drink, but be smart about what you do. That's a totally different mindset. And I think it's one of the things that we do wrong big time. You know, the reason that we create a stigma around here is because we tell, you know, kids, you can't have anything to drink and stuff. And I think one of the best things that like my mom ever did for me was like, I'm cool with you having a drink, but you're going to have it at home. Yep. You're going to have a couple of drinks with me at home, and I'm fine with it and stuff. Then it took that excitement about alcohol because I couldn't have it. It's like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. You guys are getting excited about that. It's not a big deal. I shared this in a previous episode that we talked about. I spent some time in Japan for my job, and they don't create a stigma around alcohol there. They have vending machines on the side of the road where you can just walk up, throw some cash in it, and get a beer out of the vending machine on the side of the road. And I was asking one of these elders that was my I don't want to say escort. It's probably not the right one.
Especially not
tour guide.
Especially not an elder.
Tour guide or whatever his title was, because I didn't speak Japanese and they don't speak English over there. But he carried me around. I was asking him, I was like, how do you keep the kids from buying beer? And he was like, they're not old enough. I was like, yeah, right. That's cute. So how do you keep them from buying beer? And he was like, they're not old enough, to the point where our disconnect was so far apart. He didn't even understand what I was trying to ask. Right. He's like, they're not old enough to buy beer. They're just, it's not,
they don't even care.
But there's no stigma around it. They have access to it. Mm-hmm. So it's not a big deal. To them, they're like, whatever. It's just beer. You know, I could go get one if I wanted to. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. So I really like the mindset behind, and I may be totally misreading this. This just may be my perception of things, but I like how it wasn't like, you should never drink because it makes you want to. It's, just be smart about what you do, man. Make good, healthy decisions for yourself, because ultimately you're the one that's going to pay for it. You're the only person you can't get rid of.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why it can be used for so many other things too.
Sure.
Yep. You know, get rid of the shame and the stigma and the guilt. Because, you know, you look at our war on drugs, which I think is a travesty that needs to end ASAP. It's the same thing. You know, you take addicts and prosecute them and turn them into criminals. Mm-hmm. We tried that with alcohol. It didn't work. Yep. So we need a different approach for these things.
Well, you make the drug dealers richer, right? Because the only reason that they can make a shit ton of money is because people have to pay so much more because of the risk to getting it. So I would agree with that.
So I just got to say this, because Emily, I didn't know you did the cover, so don't take offense to this, but literally it took me about 10 times looking at this cover to not realize that wasn't a boxing glove. It makes total sense now. It's a liver, but I don't know why. Just in my mind, I was picturing a boxing glove, and I think it's awesome. But it's just I don't know, the mentality of.
You have a really twisted mind.
I do,
because I thought it was a boxing glove too. Yeah, I did.
Liver. I saw liver.
Did you really?
I did see liver.
The purest guy in the room.
I was going to say I saw a boxing glove too. I thought it was like knocking out your problems. Yeah,
so maybe it was supposed to be both. There you
go.
Okay.
Hey, whatever works for you.
Okay, so again, any other closing thoughts from you? Anything you want to tell our listeners?
No, just thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. I
100%.
really enjoyed it, and I appreciate your mission. I think you're doing a great thing, and I'm on board with it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here again, and thanks for making the trip up, and all you guys for making the trip up. What's really cool is the fact that Walnut Street has not only helped you publish this book, but they've supported. I've seen it because I was at the book release, and I'm here tonight, obviously. And the fact that you got 3 other people in your corner making this trip with you just to do the podcast, and I know that's happening with everything else you're doing because I've gotten to know these people over a brief period of time, but it doesn't take long to figure out the character of folks if you really pay attention. So I have no doubt that you're excited about that relationship. The book can be found, again, for listeners, walnutstreetpublishing.com. Go there, check it out, buy it, get some for your family, friends. I don't know what the shipping time is, but if you don't get this Christmas, you'll have it by next Christmas, so just whatever, Valentine's Day.
New Year's.
Aaron is the fulfillment guy, so
That's
I'm
a pretty
assuming
good lead time right
That's
there.
pretty
If
good
you
lead
don't have
time.
it this Christmas, you'll have it next
you
Christmas.
will have it by Christmas.
And that's an Shepherds of Men guarantee.
Exactly. We got a 12-month guarantee on the shipping.
I could shove my head up a cow's ass and get good look. Wait, hold on. Wait, that's
It's
not
got to be
right.
your bull.
Yeah, it's got to be your bull.
So, and you can follow Rick if you want to check him out. Rick C. Gehrke at Rick C. Gehrke, sorry, on your Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure is similar. Walnut Street. We talked about all that.
I'm
and
on LinkedIn too.
On LinkedIn as well. So find him on there. I think we're on LinkedIn too. We just don't promote it much.
Yep, we're
it's
on
all
LinkedIn.
professional.
It's very professional.
It's too professional, though. I mean,
Yeah.
if people
Can you go sleeveless on LinkedIn?
If people, yes. If people are going to post political crap on LinkedIn, I can plug my book on LinkedIn.
Hey,
Yeah.
amen
Yeah.
to that.
It's true.
Any network is a network. So we appreciate you guys listening. Again, make sure you share this with people. Wilson's about to tell me.
I was just going to say
need
that we're going to actually, in the next episode, when this releases, his information will be in the episode title or the bio area or the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So just check that out.
Yeah, check out all the links and our story and stuff like that. You'll have connections to them directly, to both Walnut Street and Rick directly. Producer O is making sure a lot of that stuff is happening, so we appreciate that. Maybe we could even get a link up on our site to the book. I think we're doing some stuff like that right now with Derek, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could get a direct link.
Keep an eye on Walnut Street Publishing. If you're writing a book or you're thinking about writing a book, they bring people in at any stage, and I can tell you from personal experience that they are awesome people.
Yep. 100%. And I know them, not to the degree you do, but I'm getting to know them, and I agree with that sentiment for sure. So, again, make sure you share this with people. If you're getting value out of the episodes, make sure you're passing it along. We appreciate you big time. We appreciate your feedback. Go check out the gear. There's some new stuff coming down the pipe, as we've been mentioning for a while. I got the new hoodie on. It's awesome. And we're loving it. So you guys have a Merry Christmas. We will not talk to you again until after Christmas. So Merry Christmas 2020. I hope you get everything you want, but more importantly, I hope you get everything you need, and we grow into 2021 kicking ass and taking names. We love you. We mean that sincerely. You've been part of the movement.